So by now, a lot of us have really gotten a feel for what artificial intelligence is becoming. I don't say is because artificial intelligence is by nature uh, growing. And so I'm Dr. Amanda Jensen. I've been with the Teaching and Learning Services department since November of this year. No, last year at URI. And we're excited to bring you Tech Day and talk about where the massive areas of technology are coming into our lives. At this point, you may have all heard or even thought about various ideas with AI that got heightened in its perspective of ChatGPT becoming a global phenomenon. The idea is AI is impossible to understand unless you really know computer science. Should AI be in education or not? Is AI inclusive? Is it not inclusive? What do we know about it? How can we handle it? It can't be trusted is a very clear message a lot of people are explaining. And there's this huge growing perspective that AI will undermine the role of the educator. But I want you to understand that a lot of these are myths. There's been tech innovations over the years. Think of when the calculator came on the scene. We thought it was the end to math as we knew it. Then it just evolved and got a little more complicated. We've had all these different things coming on the scenes with technology that were going to shatter and break the world. Y2K was going to be way too crazy and chaotic. Google came in. How can we learn if we have something that tells us everything we need to know? These are all questions that have been coming up with technology since technology has been around. And on that note, just an idea of technology. Technology is just an extension of our capabilities. It's a tool we use. It's not a replacement for who we are. So now, in light of those other technologies, we have the newest and latest, greatest thing on the scene, artificial intelligence. We thought it was just one, but now we have multiple types of artificial intelligence, and it continues to expand. These are just a few definitions that have been broadcast out and about. Artificial intelligence is basically the simulation of human intelligence by machines. It runs on algorithms and parameters, not in critical thinking. And those are things to keep in mind as we start exploring it. Large language models is one version. That's where it just looks at text and works at trying to understand what text means and how it's used. And then we have generative AI. Generative AI builds on itself and builds and builds and builds. And that's kind of where our current AI is. AI, you may or may not know, it's been around for some time. How many of you have used spell check or Grammarly? I see Anne waving at me. This is the way technology works. Some people wave, some people raise their hand, all sorts of different types of technology ways to interact. But it's been around for some time. It's just changing. But that's technology. That's why it is so ubiquitous. That's why it's so unique. It doesn't go away. It just changes. It changes a little bit, and then every once in a while, it goes from being like a middle school tween to teenager, look out. Okay, now that I've off that little platform there, we've done spell check, Grammarly. Google is another one. I fight Google all the time when I was teaching. It was How do you use it? Do you use it as a student? And definitely do not include it in the reference section, okay? Use it as a tool, but don't quote it because it's not the original source. Smartphones. How many of us have talked about something with our peers, and then 5 or 6 days later, your phone comes up with an ad about either a store we talked about or something else that we have been discussing? These little ads pop up. They're nudges. And I bumped into the person who helped create the algorithm for that. It was really amazing to find out that it was part of his inception on the team of just figuring out how to customize our ads for us and make me want to buy things I don't need. And then after those things started happening, we had voice response systems such as Alexa. I mean, how many of us today are checking Alexa or making sure it's turned off so that it doesn't come on our smartphones, which we wear on our watch now? So many different ways to continually have this artificial intelligence, this reactive technology. It reacts to us. The reason why it's kind of expanding is we've increased its processing power. Big data is getting bigger. We started out with computers when there was 256 kilobytes. Now we're into all sorts of quantum numbers. And to just see it expand has been incredible. And ChatGPT, for example, has been expanding. When it first got formally into the public hands, a lot more in the background though, but they were using it, it had 1.5 billion parameters. Now, parameters are things that help it search, and I'll show you how that will work in a minute or two. So that happened. The first one had 1.5 billion. Jump to ChatGPT 3 a year later, 175 billion parameters. And with the latest release, ChatGPT 4, we have 1 trillion parameters that technology is processing its data through. We could never do that fast. So how do all these parameters and things work? Because this helps us understand words like hallucination, or when it tells you that your latest and greatest model in technology enhanced learning is you've got the technology acceptance model that went through 1, 2, 3, and you ask it what's the latest model, and it'll tell you 4. Technology acceptance model doesn't have 4. How does it get to those accidental hallucinations, this misinformation? It's because it runs through processes. And so you can see in front of you, here's a basic process. You start something, there's a decision that needs to get made, and that decision leads to different processes, and that's the end of the process. Well, AI takes that little one, and you have a bigger processing. And so it's got all these areas of decision makings that it goes through. And if that happens, then it does this, and it keeps going. So what starts as this simple idea of if then, you now have complex things that look like this image. It's similar to a neural pathway. It is so many different ways of things filtering and creating data in your brain, or people call artificial intelligence similar to a brain. It's doing that high-level multi-processing. And that's why we get some of the difficult information. But I'm not here to talk to you just about artificial intelligence and technology. I'm here to help us look at it at higher education. And the US Department of Education in May put out a 60-page document from the Office of Educational Technology with insights and recommendations for educators and education systems in the United States to start implementing. One of the big things is to think about stopping treating technology as an add-in option. Our students are graduating, and all of us went through COVID. I didn't want to bring up that word in this session, but it has this one spot here. The world is infiltrated with technology. We're using it for our conference now. We interview on technology. Our students will be working using technology. If they don't have those digital skills when they graduate, they will not be able to successfully thrive with their degree in our society, and we do them a disservice. So it's time to fully work with it. But that takes time to build in. We need to look at different places in our educational structure where the depth of content is needed and how to leverage that with a pace of innovation. I mean, we all heard about ChatGPT, in October, November, not even a year ago, and it's already in its third iteration since we've met that. So how do we leverage that depth of content and that pace of innovation? Other things to be aware of is artificial intelligence can help and work in a way as teaching assistants. Not as the teacher's assistants that we use that are humans, but it can do things like give students specialized assignments. If they've completed a homework assignment and gotten an 80 or better on it, then they could go to the next set of assignments. If they haven't done it, then they have to redo that to go to the next level. That's something the computer, the artificial intelligence, can do for you. It can also bring us as educators to the plan, and we need to have space to reflect. That is a key component. We need to make these times, which is why we've dedicated Tech Day towards this. It gives you time to process, to think before you start the semester and get bombarded with it. And then to take care in extreme intentionality, because AI uses that algorithm that I showed you, those parameters. It doesn't have critical thinking to know this is wrong, this isn't good, and not filter it into its thought pattern or its processes, not its thought pattern. And I think that's where we do it a disservice. We think about it as an intelligence and a being, but it's only an intelligence. It's not a being. So it can come with broken information and inefficient systems. So the old adage, what you put in is what you get out. We tell the students that about their work. What they put into it, they'll get the grade reflecting that. Well, artificial intelligence is no different. What we put into it, it will give us back out. So those are the insights from the report, but it has some very strong 7 recommendations. And all of us should take a few minutes and think about where we can work with these recommendations. Emphasize the humanness in the loop. We are humans. We critically think. Artificial intelligence has parameters. Yes, they may be 1 trillion parameters, but they don't think outside of the box. We do. We need to work at using AI and bringing it into and figuring out how it can fit into our vision. And the president just released his new strategic plan in January, filled with innovation. Where does AI fit? And how does that fit into the shared vision there? To design our classes and look at our syllabi using modern learning principles. Because technology continues to evolve at such a large pace, We have to look at what we are doing and why, and that why becomes the choice for what principles we use. And then we also have to look at trusting technology. We've learned to use it, but can we trust it? I know I had trouble with that at our morning session. I turned it on and it wasn't functioning the way I needed it to function to be able to share my screen this morning. But that doesn't mean I can't trust it. It just means I have to understand it and have more practice at it. And another big place is focusing on research and development. We do that well in academia. Let's look at the avenues that we need to learn and understand about it and how can we make it different. And then we have to also understand there's a very unique perspective for education. There's should be specific guidance and guardrails around the artificial intelligence use within and for it, because we want our students to become intelligent too. So we have to be intentional. So that's all of what the US Department of Education has to say. Let's look a little further in what this idea of artificial intelligence and humanness does. We have to use technology, that's clear. But we have to look at it as a mindset of not policing it. Let's consider building it in or out of our assignments. Do I include it in this assignment, in this class? Why or why not? And then use that to explain to the students and help them understand what it is they need to learn and why they need to learn it and why the computer can't do it for them, and bring them into the discussion here. So it's designing intentionally and building technology either in or out of it. We need those digital literacy skills. So let's think about how we can bring some of those into our classrooms and look at how the parameters of AI can augment and be combined with the critical thinking. And being transparent with our students. Our students have grown up in an age of technology. I'm not one of them. I remember getting a computer classroom in an elementary school. There was a big idea that we just got computers in one room and we all took turns going there once a month. So, but being transparent about why it's included in the assignment, what it's going. Again, it goes back to that critical thinking, that humanness. We have the power to choose to use it, choose not to. Tell the students they have the power to choose it and choose not to. They are responsible for their choices. If they're not supposed to use it and they do use it, they are still responsible for those choices. We need to work at the knowledge and tools and the skills needed to support those. And how do we do that? Through a supportive community and a thing called a technology ecosystem. How many of you have heard about a technology ecosystem before? I can see a few of you. All right. Come on, go to the next screen. All right. So now how does this all kind of come back and what are huge lingering questions? Okay. Digital equity. Big issue, big concern. How much does it cost? Do you have access to the internet or access to the tools that you need? And then do you have the skills to it? Security and transparency in artificial intelligence, the ones that are currently available, their security and transparency is missing. We do not know how they secure the data that gets put into it. Of course, it hallucinates. I talked about how it can put parameters together and come out with false information. Try it out. Try tricking it. See what you can do. Take an area maybe you've had a publication in and type a question about it, something you're solid in your knowledge of. type it in, ask a question as if you don't know anything about it, and see what it says. And the idea that it becomes commercialized. Already we've seen the common version, ChatGPT, become a cost exclusive. So ChatGPT 4, which is the newest model, you now have to pay for. And Grammarly is a higher level is a higher level of being able to do the grammar check and the spelling check, but you have to pay for that too. It's becoming commercialized. And it's just a reminder about how hallucinations, they appear truthful to the program, the artificial intelligence. It connects words based on what's before and after, but it doesn't have an awareness of what those words actually mean, and it doesn't process that. Are there any questions so far? I'm not hearing any, and I don't think there's anything going on in the chat. All right, so that's a little about tech. What comes next for higher education? Where are we actually at? We're at the generation of new digital knowledge. Not only do the students coming in, were they born into an age of technology, but now there's new sets of technology, and some of them don't know how to use it. It's rapid and adaptive learning, something we at higher education have grown in, and we need to continue to grow in being able to adapt our teaching to match their adaptable learning. Their brains need to change something every 3 seconds because they are so hyper-stimulated. Their brains are processing differently because of it. Because of the use of technology, we can't fight it. We need to work with it. Digital literacy, competency. Again, it goes back to those skills, and I can't emphasize it enough. I've heard some high schools are teaching typing. I've heard some have gotten rid of cursive writing. I've heard others that are still doing cursive writing and not teaching typing. We kind of need to do both. We're in that age where you still need to sign your name so you know how to do a cursive signature, but we still need to type, because if you can't type fast, then you can't produce the papers fast, and the time you have to spend on your assignment is exorbitant just because you can't type, versus if you can type with the QWERTY and go faster. Those are digital competencies we need to think for. And then the last two, space for exploration, to be able to provide not only students, but us as the staff and faculty that serve the students. We need space to explore that too. And that works towards our own life learning, which is becoming a bigger emphasis in higher education. So we are working to provide spaces, but I will talk about that in a few minutes. What comes next for artificial intelligence and technology? What's on the horizon and what's projected out for the future? The expansion of AI in most softwares and systems. We are at a point where that is almost guaranteed. You can go into any program and there'll be some kind of chatbot or help system that is triggered with artificial intelligence. The figure before you is from the Harvard AI Index annual report. It tracks the number of patents that are being filed related to artificial intelligence, and it's reflected in the number of thousands. So you can see we're on an exponential curve up for that. So we need to be aware of the technology ecosystem, make sure we have those in place, make sure we're working at that. That's something we're doing a lot on the campus. I'm sure you've realized a little bit of the challenges with the security, We've been really tightening down on that because that becomes a tool that we need to have in place to keep our technology ecosystem functioning well. And one of the things that's right on the cusp, right, we are on the cusp of, is artificial intelligence is becoming localized. Right now, it's global in the world. These chat GPTs, it's open everywhere. But if you went to Jim McGraw's presentation this morning, there's already a subset of an AI chatbot for URI in the works. So it's becoming a little bit more localized, a little more insular. Think of it as a library, and we're going to put the information in it we want into it. It can reach out to get other things, but it's going to be insular. That's where we're right at that technology cusp. What's coming in the coming decade? Oh, this is just a reminder for anybody who needs to understand what a technology ecosystem is. It's that idea is that it's all functioning together with itself. And what's coming next with technology? It's projected that between 2050 and 2075, there will be a quality version of a generalized artificial intelligence. What that's going to look like, we don't know, but it's projected to be able to be utilized much better than the ones we even think about. Quantum tech. Here at URI, we just got involved in a grant related to quantum science, quantum computer science. That is in its infancy stages. So it will be adopted and be part of what's happening in the next 20 years. And in 20 years, it'll start becoming stabilized. And then, of course, there's still things to be authored. Our students will be working on things that we can't even imagine yet. Is there a question in the chat? Voice to text technology. Yes. We have some of that already. So now it's your turn to think. I've been talking a lot. I've been talking an awful lot about higher education and technology, where we're at, some of the things that are coming from the Department of Education, from EDUCAUSE, which is an incredible technology company. It is a private sector thing. If you don't know about it, ask about it at another time. We have a university license, so you can get access to their resources and information. But for now, I want you to take a minute and think. I want you to think about artificial intelligence today and how you see it affecting your distinct space here in higher education at URI. I want you to think about it for a minute or two, and then I'm going to actually start breaking you out into groups and having you discuss it for about 5 minutes, discuss your perspectives. Then I'll ask if you want to be pulled back or if you need a little more time. We'll discuss for a minute or two what you discussed in your groups, any quick insights, and then move to the final portion of this program. All right. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the main room. People are coming in slowly.
Here for
All right. Here's the whiplash back to our main room. What I want to put up now on the screen is a basic whiteboard. So if you'll take a moment or two and write something that either you or your group discussed in a couple of words, I'd recommend kind of moving your mouse to different locations rather than everybody going to the top of the screen, and just write something. To do text, you just click to the left of your screen. There's a little toolbar that'll give you different options. to be able to type in something with a text, and you put a text box in. I see lots of people going on the whiteboard. Are you figuring out how to type, or do you need more direction with that?
Yeah, how does that work?
Use these words.
All right. So over to the left, if you scroll down one more section, let me see. I can't share my screen with the whiteboard up. There's a toolbar to your left. It's got an arrow. It's got a pen. It should be right over here. And if you hit the down arrows, there'll be a picture of a T, which will give you a box to use. And as I'm sure you are all already well versed, using technology to either present or teach with, sometimes you need to take time out of your presentation to actually teach the tool that you're using. And so when you think about using tech, choose wisely for your assignment. All right, ethical considerations. Oh, that's on the forefront of my mind these days. People are putting that in. Students are connected with the AI tool. Yes, it will continue. How can you use AI to integrate all resources from URI? Oh, that's a phenomenal one. It takes a human component to that one. AI policies. You know, right now, your academic integrity and the student guidelines and expectations, you can remind them of that right now. Their use of that and doing academic integrity, being true, their work is their work and attributing their work, those kind of things are all important to make sure. A syllabus AI policy. Yes. Oh, somebody found out how to put a sticky note on there. Tools grow as we do. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I think that ends your whiteboard use. If it doesn't, feel free to keep going. Oh, it does. All right. So other things I saw people doing it on that whiteboard. You did talk about how system support could be done with artificial intelligence. How can it support your teaching? How can it support the students? And how to use it with student teaching. You guys hit all of those on the whiteboard. Those are things to keep in mind. It went backwards. All right. The consensus of all the literature at this point and all of the conferences that I've been blessed to be a part of talk about working to cooperatively make spaces, provide guidelines, and opportunities to evaluate a curriculum, practices, and policies to be inclusive of technology and its use, not just an add-on phrase or an extra sentence. To really take a look at what we're saying, how we're saying it, and why. Spaces for exploration here at the University of Rhode Island. So the Teaching and Learning Services Department is the one that has a lot of opportunities for exploring. We just upgraded our website, which I just put in the link for you. It includes, if you scroll down a bit on it, wait a minute, you're not seeing that, are you? You're seeing my PowerPoint presentation. Share screen. Share screen two. Okay. So we now have launched a number of different options. We are doing informal coffee hours twice a month to have you grab your coffee and come and discuss EdTech as faculty. We're providing a time once a month where you as faculty get to present what you've done with tech and share that with your classmates through EdTech Connect. Once a month, we are providing a session called a Digital Edge, where someone from IT is going to present what's happening and where tech is going. Those are three new things. EdTech Connect and Digital Edge run during the 2 months in the middle of your semester. So not during the startup month and not during the finals month. Then we have our trainings offerings. We have an essentials course. If you need a refresher on some of the basics of some of our tools, you'd come to our essentials course. For people who are brand new to URI, consultations is another big thing. So if your department wants to use a new tool, we recommend reaching out to us. We can say, oh, do you know that we already have a tool that does it? Or, you know, biology has this tool. Maybe we can combine together and make it a university license as opposed to two different colleges working together. We're that resource for you. And so you would do that by submitting a ticket into our service portal. And when you go to our service portal, it was starting to be developed in January, but you can either request something or over the last 3 months when there's been vacation on campus from major classes, we have been redoing all of our how-to guides in the knowledge base. So you click on the knowledge base and you will have step-by-step guides on how to, there's over 135 guides currently in there and it continues to grow. And you can give feedback to let us know if the guide needs to be tweaked or helped, but we've revamped them all for you with the new things that are coming. You also have the Advancement for Teaching and Learning on Campus, ATL. It's through the Office of the Assistant Vice Provost. They have a real incredible tool. Where is it? Down at the very bottom of their page, they have teaching with ChatGPT. They have a website that they've built to help you learn some pedagogies, understanding what it is, how students, they are collecting data. If you have something, say, hey, this might go well in your website. You know, these things we have to continue to enjoy and support one another in because so much is happening so quickly. We need to be aware of those. And not everybody can be in charge of everything all of the time, right? The rule of averages. And that's the academic teaching and technology, the advancement of teaching and learning. They even have somewhere on here, they have a link with a lot of articles that are there. I think that wraps up my presentation time period. I will stay in for a few questions, but I just want to encourage you guys to start exploring it, participate in professional learning like this and other opportunities. Try it out in your course and share it with your peers and one another, what you're doing. Technology is constantly changing. This is actually brought up with 5 steps leveraging ChatGPT in your teaching. Step 5 is already outdated, just letting you know. So I put it in there, just a reminder, things are constantly changing. we're there too. And so you're along for a fun ride when you work with this. And I look forward to helping you, supporting you, and let us know how we can help.
Thank you,
Anyone?
Amanda. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Very helpful. Thank you. Great information.
Very good.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Enjoy your next session.